Chase, welcome to the Builder Sessions.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and thanks for remembering to push record this time.
I was just gonna say, thanks for your patience in my ineptitude. I didn't hit record on the video thing, the Riverside. We were recording audio though. Old habits die hard. Anyways, thanks so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into the thick of this thing.
Yeah, so I'm Chace Barber, and I'm a log truck driver from BC.
Okay, long
That
truck
pretty well
driver.
sums it all up.
Okay, so how did you get into that?
Uh,
What was your journey from Did you was your did truck driving run in your family? Was there any sort of
Oh yeah. The
situation
truck
there?
driving is a huge family thing.
Is it?
I remember my dad driving a gravel truck when I was growing up, and uncles drove truck, my grandpa drove truck, and even my great grandfather drove truck.
Really?
Yeah, so it's ran in the blood for a long time here.
Okay. So with that, when you're driving truck, I'm sure you gotta be mechanically inclined. You gotta develop those skills if you're on the side of the road, something happens, because time is money in a truck, right? And so
Yes,
what's your
especially
background
when
in
you're
that area?
logger. Like I used to go way up in the mountains. Like I was an owner operator and hauled logs with a 1969 Kenworth that I restored with my business partner. That's how we got started out.
Oh, okay.
Be out in the middle of nowhere trying to fix and diagnose issues and fix truck and get her back home. And like you're an hour into the bush. There is no cell service. You're on your own. You got to fix and figure out what you can figure out.
That's it. Absolutely. So where'd you get those skills from?
A lot of cursing on the side of the road.
A lot of learning it the hard way, or did you take any, coursework? Well,
I never took
yeah,
any
that's
coursework,
the
but
next.
honestly, like you can find so much on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you got cell service and like you're working on something, like if you have an issue, somebody has made a YouTube video on how to fix that issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So you started this trucking company then with your current business partner as well?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, and then so we're getting right to it. Short and sweet of it is, you started this out, and then how did it become what was that story like? How did it become Edison Motors, and how did Edison Motors come out of that whole situation?
So the trucking company kind of evolved. We bought that old 1969. Then we bought another truck. Then we moved from hauling logs to working at a mine. Then the mine closed down. We moved over to Alberta to do some logging low bedding.
Oh, okay.
Low bedding led to hauling equipment. Hauling equipment led to hauling generators. Hauling generators led to installing generators because we figured out, hey, the guy that actually installs this on site and bids on the contract to install a generator makes a lot more money in profit than the guy that just hauls the generator.
Mm,
So we were like, well, we can install a diesel motor. How hard can that be? And I'll pay an electrician to come out. So like I'll just haul it to site, put it up, we'll put it into the building, we'll do all the hookup. Eric, who's my business partner and quite brilliant at this stuff, started thinking. Like we were both real nerdy about solar just because I like the way that I like to own my power. I don't like that the power cost keeps going up every single goddamn year. It just gets more and more expensive. So I'm like, I'll just buy the solar panels, pay for it once, and then own my own electricity that I produce. And then so we were just kind of nerdy about the freedom of that. And then we started looking into it and like, well, these off-grid communities, let's Eric asked to see the power consumption. They wanted us to replace a generator and bid on this contract, and it was a 95 kilowatt hour, 90 kilowatt hour generator. And they said, well, that seems like a lot for what your power demands are for like the size of your operation. But what we found is that around like 4 or 5 o'clock, they would have a spike in power demand up to 70. So their average base load was like 20 kilowatt hours. But they would have a spike up to 70, so they wanted a 90 kilowatt hour generator to keep that spike demand and have a little extra capacity above that. Well, that's inefficient to run a 90 kilowatt hour generator all the time when you only need 20. So we came up with this idea, let's put in a battery pack. The battery pack can meet that peak load demand. Then the generator will just put in like a 35 kilowatt. It'll maintain that base load and also recharge that battery back up for the peak load demand. And then we can put in a bunch of solar, and when you have a lot of good sun, it's there and can recharge the batteries, and when the sun isn't there, the generator will run. So it ended up making the system super efficient. And the price actually wasn't that much more because you're able to save money by buying a smaller one, and the batteries weren't that expensive. They were just meeting the peak load demand. And the solar, well, I mean, that whole system paid for itself in like a year and a half. Like, it was a
Boy.
fantastic payback, I believe.
Pretty decent.
And we started thinking on that project because I drove there and I actually hauled that stuff in that old 1969 Kenworth. And we were out walking around after finishing the install and kind of just debating to ourselves, why aren't electric trucks built like this? Like, what's the difference between the semi-truck and this project you just designed, Eric? You have a huge peak power demand on these trucks. Like, if I'm climbing a hill loaded or if I'm starting out from a red light, that's a huge peak power load. But when I'm cruising down the highway, I just got to maintain a low average base load. So trucks kind of did the same as this off-grid community. They were semi-trucks oversized to like a 600 horsepower engine, but they only need that 600 horsepower for a short time. And when they're cruising down the highway, they may only be using 200 to 300 horsepower. So why don't we downsize to a smaller generator, let that batteries take up that peak load demand, and the generator will be there to maintain the average load and recharge the batteries when you need it. Plus, the cool thing is we can use regenerative braking and we can slow the truck down and recapture that energy for when you're going downhill. To us, it just seemed like a no-brainer of a system.
Yeah. So then you're like, okay, let's step back for a minute. There's how did you like you sound very, very, very knowledgeable on this stuff. How did you come to that? Even when you said you're installing those systems and you said you'd hook them up and then bring someone in to kind of check your work, whatever. Other than YouTube videos, was there any sort of like, was that an interest of yours for the whole time, or were you dabbling here and there, hobby stuff? Like, what was the backstory on that?
I mean, just real nerdy, I guess.
There's nothing wrong
I
with
don't
that.
know how else to put it. It's like when I start getting, maybe it's just huge levels of autism between me and Eric or something like that. But like sitting there driving truck all
I'll
day,
have that, a
like,
little bit of that.
well, for sure. Like, you got 14 hours a day if you're nerdy about something when you're driving truck to sit and listen and learn. So like, I'd be sitting there hauling logs or low bedding, I'd turn on the podcast and I would just listen to podcasts about subjects that I was interested in all day. And I'd take all this knowledge and I would use that knowledge and then apply it to what I was thinking about. And after a few years of doing that, and me and Eric both kind of just being real autistically nerdy about it, we were like, hey, why don't we try and build our own truck like this? I think we've learned enough that why don't we try it and see what happens?
Sort of like, how hard can it be? Other people do it.
Exactly. How hard could it be? Turns out very hard, extremely hard. Like, we had way too much false confidence.
Worst decision we've ever made. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe those engineers were on to something.
Maybe you do need more than like 2 truck drivers with no engineering degree to build a truck, but we did it. We pulled it off. Like, thing is like, it's all been done before. Everyone looks at us like, oh man, you're building these hybrid electric trucks. That's so novel and innovative, and you're a tech company. And we're like, yeah, a tech company, and these electric freight trains have been there since the 1930s. Porsche, did you guys know that Porsche had a diesel electric hybrid with 1,200 horsepower in the 1930s, 1940s?
I did know that.
You did?
I did.
Another nerd. Yes.
Like, it's been there. The log loader at our sawmill that we were hauling logs into was diesel electric from the 1960s, an old diesel electric Laterno. Like, the technology was out there, the schematics were out there.
Since the 30s. Like, all that old tech is still running. So it's like, okay, they did something right, obviously.
Yeah, and I mean, there has been some advantages that have come along a little bit. Like, the battery technology is really improved. You don't have to use capacitor banks. You can use lithium batteries that hold more power and are going to store more power, which means that's what's really allowed the motor to be downsized and the batteries to act as a peak demand. I don't think this would have been as possible to get the efficiencies 10 years ago. I think some of the improvements in the industry in battery chemistry, because now you can allow a higher discharge and recharging rate to take that sudden demand. Before, it was all done with capacitors, which are like infinite capacity for discharging and recharging, but super heavy and super dense. Like, or not very dense. So it takes up a lot of space and it weighs a lot. So something like a freight train or an off-highway loader, something like that, can take a huge capacitor bank. Nobody wants to put in a huge capacitor bank in a semi truck. There's just nowhere to put it. It would be like having, well, it's similar to like just to do a hybrid, you would have a capacitor bank the size and weight of like a full electric semi. Plus, there's still the generator.
Jeez. So what was the what was that initial conversation like when you were talking a few minutes ago about? You said, "Well, why don't we trucks have this?" Like, what was the one thing that made you think that? Like, were you on the
But
side
we
of
were
the
drinking
road?
for sure.
There we go. Yeah. Okay.
I was
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
say this is a late night chat after about like 5 whiskeys. You're just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, do you know what'd be awesome, man?
That's exactly what it was. 100%. That is what started Edison Motors. We were having a few whiskeys,
Love it.
sitting there. We were
What kind of whiskey? What
up
kind of
and
whiskey?
like, oh, I don't even
What's
remember
your
it this
whiskey
time.
choice?
I do like a nice like Glenfiddich or something.
Oh,
Glenmorangie.
fancy.
I like my scotch.
Some scotch. Me too. We'll have to talk.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Late night scotch conversations.
That's right. And just kind of looking at our old truck there, and it was parked out, and we were just kind of looking at the old truck, and we started just getting more and more excited. And when we woke up the next morning sober, it still sounded like a good idea, so we figured we must be onto something.
Hey, there you go. No anxiety. Just a lot of dreams.
None of that. Hey, we should start a bar.
Yeah, we should start a bar, and you wake up in the morning, you're like, that's a lot of work to start a bar. We woke up the next morning, and we're like, man, I keep thinking about what we were talking about. That still makes a lot of sense. And we had the whole drive from basically like Fort St. John all the way back to Merritt. And we like the whole drive, we just kept like talking and nerding out more and more about the project. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
This is unrelated. Where is Merritt? Is it in the Fraser Valley?
no, we're kind of near, like more towards Kamloops,
Okay.
Kelowna.
Nice. Okay. So you got all this, piss and vinegar and dreams, whiskey and dreams. Where did you go from there? Like, how do you start this?
Yeah. What was step one?
Well, we kind of just, I don't even know how we started it. I just said, hey, we're going to start it.
You just buy a bunch of parts and start messing around?
We basically just bought a wrecked Tesla. Like, wildly irresponsible. But we bought some electric motors and then realized that those electric motors won't work with that one. And you're like, oh, okay, we did the calculation wrong. That motor didn't work. And we're like, we pulled out like some scrap motors and like, okay, we need like a higher revving one and that can do regen. So we went and got like parts out of a wrecked Tesla. And then just started putting like wrecked Tesla parts. And then we bought like an old 3306 Cat diesel generator and put that in and like started just kind of connecting things, and it worked. And we blew up a few things, but not as many things exploded as we thought.
That's good.
That's kind of lame. Explosion's cool, man.
I mean, Topsy had some spicy smoke more so. Like, but that thing was crude. We couldn't, because it was all a lot of Tesla software. We couldn't control the speed. The torque was hitting instantly. It was snapping drive lines like crazy. We couldn't have any integration or controls over the generator, the generator would fire up, when it would charge, when it would shut off. Like, we could over voltage the battery. You would have to manually turn the generator off, and every time you regen, and like, there was a lot of things that would have to happen, and a lot of things that it didn't like.
Yeah.
Like, it was crude to the point where we just ripped apart like a level 3 charging station and connected that up to the generator, and then you would have like just a level 3 like charger that you'd see on the road.
Yeah,
Like the guts of that.
the supercharger just hanging out the back of the truck.
Basically, that's exactly what the first truck was. We're like, okay, let's test the theory. We can get an electric car part, and we can put an electric car in a semi-truck. We can get a charging station, and we can plug the charging station into the charging port of the electric car, and then we can power the charging station off a diesel generator. Like,
it's brilliant.
On paper, this sounds like one of those like perpetual motion machines. We're just like, yeah, it just works.
Well, I mean, it just worked, kind of. Like, you got a diesel generator. It did just work. It was crude. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that is crude. You're just basically packing around a level 3 charger with a diesel generator attached. Like, we weren't complicated. We weren't sophisticated. There was no, like, bi-directional inverters. And so we took...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like that one guy on YouTube with that Tesla, and he's got a generator in the back, and he's got pipes, and he cranks it up, goes to a hotel far away in the parking lot, parks it, starts it up, Generator runs all night, and then you can drive it the next morning. That's what that reminds me of.
That's basically what it was to an
Crazy.
extreme version
Yeah,
with like
yeah.
a huge fast
For a
charger.
big truck, though. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, you know what? It worked. And we were able to figure out things like the air brake system, the control powering the control system. Like we figured out a lot. And then the next one, we during what we were learning as we were doing it, we were taking down notes of parts, what the parts were. Like we did a lot of studying, and while we were building that, when we'd learn something, we would change the design. So before we even had Carl finished, we already had learnt enough during the building of Carl that we had a redesign. And we finished it up with a few things. And as soon as we were done that, we started ordering parts for the next truck. We showed it off and be like, look, this is the concept. Oh, excuse me. We have a rough proof of concept. We showed it off and said, do you guys want to fund us a little more? And we raised some money in crowdfunding. And then we used that money from crowdfunding to build the actual truck where we sourced all of our own components off the shelf. It's our own design for that system. And we put it all together, and that was a cool one because like now we weren't relying on anyone else's software. So we had to get the software written. We had to control everything. We brought in some really brilliant engineers instead of just us with an idea. And we just let the engineers, the mechanics, and the parts guys go to work. And we sourced things when we needed things. And when we ran into problems, we put those problems on TikTok or YouTube, and people would come out with solutions. And
That's cool.
we just kind of, not only did we crowdfund the project, but we crowdsourced the information. Like, this is not mine and Eric's that was responsible for making the truck. We just thought, hey, wouldn't this really be cool? But we admitted, like, we were dumb. Like, Eric's pretty smart, but we admitted, like, we're dumb. We don't know that much about electric vehicles, but we can find the people that do.
Mhm.
I think that was the thing, is like we were smart enough to know that we were too dumb to know anything, but we could reach out to the people that did know things. And we would sit down, we would listen to experts, and people would give their opinions, and we would make a decision based on their opinions and put that into practice and see what worked. It turns out that's a winning combination.
Where did that drive come from? Like, if you don't know the answer to the thing, you have this awesome idea and you don't know what you get to a certain point, you need to ask for help, or you need to, crowdfund, crowdsource. Like that drive, like so many people nowadays are scared to ask for help, scared to reach out to the community. Like, where did that drive to do that, to reach out, to admit that you don't necessarily know the answer, but you'll damn well find out? Like, where did that come from? Were you raised with that kind of don't take no for an answer kind of attitude?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, just being real stubborn to continue, but admitting that I'm not smart enough to figure it out on my own, but I really want to do this, so let's figure out how to do it. I guess
Yeah.
just like, I think too many I've met, and that without saying any company, but I've met some other guys from some of these other EV companies, and I've met a lot of like the corporate CEO, MBA types, and they're ignorant assholes, for lack of a better word. Like, these guys in suits think that they're God's greatest gift, that they know everything, and they won't let anyone, like, I admit, like, I'm a truck driver. There's people that know more than me about other parts. Why wouldn't I just listen to it?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I listen to the experts and then just make an educated decision? Like, that's how you run a business. That's how you design things.
Well, and also for automotive company, like you should have someone kind of driving the truck, if you say, who knows what a truck is supposed to operate like and knows like what a good truck has or doesn't have.
Well, that's just it. Is like, as a truck driver, I know what I want to see in a truck. And then a couple of good mechanic buddies came over, and they're mechanics, and they know how they want to wrench on a truck and how parts should go in there. And then we had parts guys that came out to help that we knew, and like, hey, I know the whole parts list. I know what parts break. I know what parts last long. I know this part's too expensive. Get this part. It's more reliable. This is the part that's always on the shelf. So mechanics said, hey, we need these valves. The parts guys said, hey, these are the best like the truck driver. So we'll start, I would say, hey, these are how I like my brake pedal and gas pedal. I like this style. This is what feels great. The mechanic said, oh, okay, well, there's a couple options in this one. This is how we got to put that together. This is the treadle valve. The parts guy said, this is the most common treadle valve we need. And then the engineer says, okay, well, I'll drop that part then into the 3D model. Does it fit? The mechanic says, yeah, that's a good spot. I can work on it. Nothing's in the way. Okay, well, we'll drop that in. And you go through an entire truck and you just do that enough times, put one part in, put another part in, and you put enough parts in, eventually you get to a full truck.
Yeah. I love that. I love how it just sounds like there's a real like lack of egotistical behavior. Like you're humble enough to say, hey, I don't know what this is. I need some help. And then you bring in like, it sounds like a very collaborative situation, which is really cool. Cause like you said, not all these, especially in the EV, I'm assuming, especially in the EV world, everything's proprietary and secret and everyone's trying to one up the other one.
Well, and honestly, I hate that about North American manufacturing. We have issues when it comes to our manufacturing industry and parts and sales and whatever you want to call it in North America, where everyone plays their cards so close to the chest. Like, I don't want my competitor to see what I'm designing or what I'm engineering. That's my trade secret, and you can't know about this. Like, I hate that. You go over to China and they're so open and sharing and they just want to work together. They just want to help other businesses. And you're like, look what happened to the Chinese economy. 30, 40 years ago, they were in abject poverty. Now their wages are only like $10,000 a year, less than our wages on average.
Really?
Yeah, like their wages on average have gotten right up with us.
Interesting.
Like they went from having, you look at like hospital beds per capita. They went from having like 2.5 hospital beds per 1,000 people to, I think now they have 11 hospital beds per 1,000 people. And Canada has done the inverse. In the 1960s, we had like 12 hospital beds per 1,000 people. And now we're down to like 3 hospital beds for every 1,000 people. Like, we've inversed the relationship with China. And you're like, how did China do this? How did they become competitive? And you look at it, they just have an atmosphere of working together, sharing things. Like, we went over there to some of their EV companies and we met with some of the VPs from their EV companies. And they had the mindset that, hey, it is a huge world. There's countries beyond China. China's 1 billion people, but the world has 8 billion people. There's 7 billion other people we can sell vehicles to. If we work together to make the best product, if you learn something, you share it with me. If I learn something, I share it with you. We both have a better product. And then we can devote our resources to, you work on this, and I'll work on this. And when we learn, we share. And then we can compete against the rest of the world because they're too busy fighting each other. So you have businesses in North America, they're all trying to research their own individual thing instead of collectively sharing. And now we're becoming less competitive on a global stage. Whereas you look at Chinese EVs, have you seen guys been in like a BYD? They're fantastic.
No.
Oh my God. Like the quality is pretty decent. Like,
yeah, that's interesting.
Like the cars are like $15,000 for like, that's where I would buy an electric car. If I could buy like a $15,000 little electric car to run around town like a grocery getter, you just get it home, you plug it in, you don't, like, that's what I want. I don't want an $80,000 Tesla Model S just to run in and get groceries. I just want a cheap Chinese little $15,000 run in, get it, and then I can still have my gas vehicle when I go for longer drives. Like, but they were able to get there and become competitive because they share.
Yeah. I never heard it described in that way. From the narrative that we get over here, it's, well, they're just copying everything and they're, like copyright doesn't matter and they, whatever. That whole situation. Like I remember watching an episode of the Top Gear and they went over there and there's like a BMW X5 like clone. Like
they have some secret. They definitely have some clones.
Yeah,
There's a couple. I'm pretty sure that's a Jeep, guys.
Yeah. What do you mean?
They just have a different concept of it. They're a very collectivist society where they work together and they don't really have like a, you're stealing this idea from me. They have a like, we're sharing this idea together.
See, that's the interesting part for me, because our narrative over here that we get is they're stealing, it's copyright because we're big on competition, right? And then to hear, I've never heard that, to hear that they're, hey, like, let's work together. It's fascinating. I've never heard that. Thanks for sharing that.
Imagine how things would be if we did that in Canada, like where you had like different people building and sharing building techniques or manufacturing techniques. Like, Canada should be doing that if we want to be competitive. Like, if somebody finds a really cool technology or a really cool way of doing something, I hope they share it with other people in their industry, because it's a, as China says though, it's a huge world. Canada is 40 million people. We can be selling to 8 billion people. Canadian businesses should all be sharing to make Canadian businesses the best they can be to be more competitive on a global stage.
Yeah, that's interesting. Instead of me and my business, it's us and our businesses for the good of the country.
Yeah, and that's how they view things. Is like, this is for the good of all of us and the good of the country, so we're going to do it. And I think we used to have that attitude. Oh, they are so free market, it's insane. They just view it as a way to make more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say China is a weird economic beast when it comes to that. Like I don't know. I don't want to get too deep down the economics rabbit hole. That's not
It's
the
another
point of
show.
this.
It's another show. But I
I
do
don't know. I
appreciate
just
how
think that,
collaborative
like,
they
if
are.
you notice that in our history, when we've had those moments where we've acted like that, we have been insanely competitive. You look at World War II, during the production businesses had, all of a sudden there was no more trade secrets. There was, we are all Canadian, we are all allies between Canada, US, England, and we would share technology and designs and ideas. And hey, I just had better armor for my Sherman. Share that with everyone else building Shermans. Or hey, I got a better transmission for this Jeep. Oh, share that with everyone that's building Jeeps right away. Let's get on it. And what did we do? We outproduced the fuck out of Germany, versus Japan. Like, when they started, like, yeah, they had a little bit better technology, but we were able to, by the end of the war, like, you look at it, the German Fokker, like 109, was absolutely better than, oh, I want to say that the early versions of the Spitfire. You look at it, the Japanese Zero could shoot down the American planes like crazy. Like, the Zero was premium. The German plane was premium. By the end of the war, they were dog shit. Like, you look at it, and Supermarine Spitfires were improving on like a weekly basis. So many people were sharing information between countries, between manufacturers, that our technology level from the start of the war till the end of the war jumped like crazy. Our production levels jumped like crazy because we worked together. Like, that's what happened in China. China decided, hey, let's all work together. And now they are outproducing, and now they are out technologing us for cheaper.
Interesting.
They caught up to where we were at, and now they're passing us in technology. And we got to pull our heads out of our asses and get back to a World War II mentality of working together. And maybe we could get the benefits that happened after that, because the 1950s, 60s, and 70s were a pretty awesome time economically.
That's fascinating. It reminds me of open source software and that kind of movement, right? There's grassroots attempts at doing some of this stuff, I think, but yeah, like all the open source stuff, OBS, those types of softwares. It's like everyone kind of adds their little bit and shares this and discovers this, and it just has a better product at the end of it.
Or like I think the
It's
basis
really
of
interesting stuff.
going down the software thing, like Linux, I think is
Yeah.
the basis of most Android software, and like it's open source.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's why we said, like, we'll make our truck codes. Like, when someone buys a truck, we'll give them the codes to program on the truck if they want to. Like, there's
cool.
nothing that's going to be locked down. Like, you can send it to a tuner, because I'm a big believer in that, because you know what? We got a small engineering team. We got just a couple guys writing the codes for making everything work. Well, someone's going to buy the truck, and then somebody's going to get access to the code, and somebody that's probably smarter than us will be like, hey, I can make this more efficient if I change these variables, and like, your power's flowing here, I'm going to change that, and I'm going to increase the max torque over here, and look, I've made a more efficient thing. And we can say, oh, awesome, we can implement that change now, and that's made us a better truck. So you trying to make your truck better using our open source code has now made our truck better because we've learned from what you've done.
That's awesome.
Now, have you guys received any sort of like pushback from other EV companies, or like, gas?
They're mainly all bankrupt now, so fuck them.
Gas diesel lol at Nikola Motors.
Yeah, Nikola, Leon, Canoe, Fisker, I think Atlas. Man, like, almost like all of them. Have any EV startups survived lately? When you got a $2 trillion market cap, yeah. And they're not, I wouldn't call them a startup anymore. They're a full-fledged automotive producer.
Have you talked to those guys at all?
No, I never really talked to them.
Uncle Elon's not reached
He
out
hasn't
to you?
reached out? Odd.
Weird.
No, I know. I'd love to know what Elon thinks of Edison.
Even just from a name standpoint, I love it.
And
What about like the gas diesel guys? Any pushback from those guys going electric?
no,
No,
I
that's
mean,
cool.
there's guys that'll be like, "Oh, I miss shifting," but like, if you're really dedicated about shifting and you really want to shift gears, I'll just build you a manual truck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Like
what about
I could
like
still build a manual. I could drop the transmission, I could drop the generator back end. I could put a transmission on, put a drive shaft, and put some normal axles if that's what you really want. That's what I can build.
yeah, that's interesting.
Just have a shift lever like hooked up to a VFD and call it good. Make it
Honestly, you could do something like that
some
just to play around
some clickety
but
clacky noises and you're good. Way to go.
Yeah,
a lot of the pushback hasn't been it's been actually from the EV folks that we've gotten the most pushback
interesting.
from. Because like the diesel guys, it's not that they're anti-electric vehicles. They're anti being told what they have to do when something's not going to work for them. Like these EV mandates that have been coming out have basically said, "Hey, you have to buy an electric truck." And everyone with a diesel is like, "Well, that's not going to work for me. I could do more than a 4-hour day, guys. Like I can't do a 3-4 hour day and call it good. I can't feed my family off of that." And they said, "Well, we don't care. You have to do it anyways because it's going to save the environment." They're like, "Well, I don't even know about that." Like the science has said it's not that much better for the environment because you still have to, like in the US, you're still burning coal to produce the power, like, and
Yeah,
you're still having the extra cost of the batteries, the extra weight and wear and tear on our roads. Like I don't know if it's better, but they're like, you have to do it anyways. So like that's what the majority of people's pushback on EV has been. They just don't want it rammed down their throats.
yeah,
But if you're like, hey, look, I still have a diesel generator, it's electric drive, and you can still do your 14, 15-hour day, you'll just get more power and burn less fuel. Yeah, who doesn't want that?
Hey, do you want a better vehicle that saves you money?
nah, I'm good.
Where we get the pushback is like the EV folks, and they're like, you're not getting it. EV is to make a full electric. Putting in a diesel is wrong.
Oh, like
You're
a
still
purist.
getting
Yeah.
to the problem. Like that's honestly, we get all of our pushback from like the heavy EV folks. Like,
See, I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have guessed there's some like petroleum diehards that are like,
that's
anti
very
EV.
rare.
That surprises me. That's interesting. So you're talking so all of the funding is crowd, and you probably have some other investors, but a lot of I saw in there you just in the little bit of digging I did as far as your crowdfunding goes. Like, how was that? Was it instant? Like,
The government regulations. So when we
mm,
had you're only allowed to raise 1.5 million every 12 months in Canada under crowdfunding, and everyone's allowed to compete in crowdfunding. Like anyone could come in, and we filled that up on our last crowdfunding round in like 4 hours.
no
We raised
way.
like 1.5 million, and then we hit a cap, and then above that in Canada, you could only take money from accredited investors that make over you. There's certain requirements. They have to make over $200,000 a year gross. They can include that. Luckily, they can include like business income. So like somebody that's self-employed or as an owner operator, like they normally qualify. Or you got to have over $1 million in like net financial assets to be accredited, or have like certain financial training. But it really limits who can invest in this country. And like we have not been taking any venture capital money. We've told a few venture capitals, a few of the major investors to kind of just fuck off. We didn't like the values. I can see what happened with Nikola. That's all I'm gonna say is we've had investors that have straight up wanted us to lie. And
Mm,
like we've told them, they're like, you need to promise that you're gonna do this and you're gonna achieve this production and you're ready to go to production and your truck is good. And like we're like, well, it's not. Topsy still has some issues. Like we've made some design improvements, we need to change things. No, you've got to promise that you're going to full production. You're willing to build 2,000-3,000 trucks a year and willing to raise money to build a big factory. Because then we can raise the money. We're like, well, we're not. We'll have issues. They're like, well, don't worry about it because what we'll do is we'll say that you're going to be at full production in 3 years. In a year and a half, we'll take you to IPO. You're going to IPO for a crazy amount of money because you've raised now some money with other investors, and we'll do that over the next 2 years. We'll raise that money with these promises. Then we'll IPO with a great promise. And then when you have problems with production, we'll just blame it on supply chain or blame it on some issues.
wow.
And then like
Doesn't
But they're
surprise
like,
me.
don't worry. By then, though, it's like by then we'll be able to take our money out. Like you'll have a nice money. Like take some money out. You IPO, take your chunk of the money out. You'll have we'll IPO for like $1 billion, $2 billion. One guy's saying like we could probably IPO this for like $2-3 billion. You'll have like 20% of the 30% of the company. Like you'll take home almost $1 billion, a couple $100 million by the time you take that out. Like who cares if it fails? You'll have $100 million. And they're looking at me like, what do you mean you don't want to take that? Like we can put like $50 to $100 million in your pocket. Like who cares if it fails? And you're like, I care.
Yeah.
It's not the right way of doing it.
And
Like
it's like,
I could see if you were tempted with the money, where you would take that money, where you would make these promises of we're gonna hit 20,000 trucks a year, and we're gonna fill this market, and we're building a huge 600,000, 700,000 square foot manufacturing warehouse to pump these things out, and you raise all sorts of money, and you like Nikola hit a $40 billion valuation, and you're like, yeah, you can take your chunk of the money and leave. I could see investors pushing somebody to do that, and that's why we've told them no, and we've relied on crowdfunding because we want to be supported by people that believe in the project, believe in the trucks, and believe in the things we stand for.
That is wild. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but it's just the fact that it's all about the cash and the ROI, right?
I'm most impressed by the fact that you basically told very, very wealthy people that your integrity is not for sale, and
Yeah.
they listened and kind of like, fucked off or
Yeah.
hard
But
enough.
some of them definitely caused us some problems, but we'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Some of them, but you know, some of them are definitely not happy that we said no, and some of them, but whatever. It's one of those things where like you looked at yourself and like, well, what the fuck am I gonna buy with $100 million? Like, I don't want a big house, but that's just more rooms I gotta fucking clean. That seems awful. Like, oh yeah, it's just more room. Like then I'm gonna have to do renovations, and like, oh, the flooring gets old, and more roof to fix, and then it's just more expenses go up. I would be quite happy in life, and I think this is why like I could tell him no, is that I love being a truck driver. I love the fact that I got an old 1969 Kenworth. I'm debt free, and I could go to work when I felt like going to work, and I could take off when I felt like the truck had no payment. It owed me nothing, and I had a very like little comfortable debt free life. Like that's all I would do. What would I do if I was rich? I would probably do something I was passionate about, which is hauling logs, driving my truck. When I
Developing
do
a
it,
EV truck. Oh, no, here we are again.
it's just back like if I go things the right way, I can just do it with my own truck, and I'm doing something I'm passionate about. Like what you enjoy in life is what you do. Like I'm not going to enjoy having $80 million and sitting on a beach in Havana. I'm going to get bored as fuck after like 2 weeks of that. You know what I am going to enjoy? Building a sweet ass truck that I love to drive and having an active say in making a change in the industry. I'm going to get way more emotional benefit out of that than just taking their money and being like, I fucked it up.
Yeah, man. So, can you tell us a little bit? Because I know it's not just the big truck stuff. There's the pickup truck kits. Can you tell us about that and how that kind of got started?
Well, so many people, we were doing the hybrid kit or the hybrid semi trucks, and we kept explaining the benefits. And someone's like, "Man, I just want this in a pickup." Actually, everybody, we were getting like 20, 30 emails a day and messages of people being like, "Hey, I want this. Like, can we do this in a pickup?" And I'm like, "Well, we really don't have any money for that, guys. Like, we're a broke ass company. We haven't taken the big investors' money. Like, we can't fund another project." So we said, "Hey, if you guys want to fund it," we looked at it, and I think it's possible. Instead of like in the semi truck, we have 6 battery modules. In the pickup, we can use 2. Instead of 6 inverters, we'll use 2 inverters. We'll use a smaller generator for the back, and we'll use smaller electric motors on the axles. But other than that, we can keep all the controls the same, the programming's the same, the motor manufacturer, the generator manufacturer is the same. Like, so in theory, we should be able to do this. And we basically said, if you want to reserve a pickup kit, it was $250, and we'll take that money and we'll put it towards developing a pickup kit. And since then, now we've got 5 pickup kits that are being built. The batteries are finally shipping for them. We've done the engineering, the design, we got the batteries, we got everything figured out from the testing that we did with Topsy. And now we're putting them into these trucks and a couple cool partnership testing, and we're going to see how these trucks go. And then we're probably going to figure out what we need to change. We'll make the change and we'll roll that kit out to the next group of people. And once we're happy with it, then we'll start offering the pickup retrofit kit. So if you got an old square body Chevy, you just don't like the fuel mileage, keep your old square body. Just put electric axles, put a generator on behind the motor, and put some batteries in the frame rail.
Love that. Love that. Do you see that one taking off? Like, what do you see? Obviously, you're probably, your heart is the big trucks, but do you
My heart
see?
is definitely in the big trucks.
Yeah,
That's why we partnered up with the Boss Garage,
yeah,
because his heart and soul is into those pickup kits. He loves building cool pickups. So we made him a vice president in the company. We gave him some ownership stake in the company and Edison. So now he owns part of Edison, and he is handling that pickup. He's doing an awesome, fantastic job of just designing these pickup kits. And he's going to bring that to production to us. And I think we're going to base a lot of that out in Ontario where he is. And we're going to focus on the pickup trucks out here. And we meet every single morning. We go over what we've learned. So we sit down every morning at 9:30 between our engineers, the Bosca Garage, and Richard and his crew. And we just give everybody updates. This is what we're doing. This is where we're at. And going pretty good. I think we're going to have these trucks done by June. That's the goal.
that's so cool.
I'm so excited to see that.
Congratulate. That's so awesome.
I'm excited to see the Land Cruiser conversions that you've been doing too.
Yeah.
Is that Rosie and I we both have Jeeps. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that could be fun. You take
That one's going to be, honestly, I'm really, really excited about that.
That's so cool.
The
Good for
mining
you.
truck.
That's so sweet.
I
Tell us
mean, that was honestly a happy accident. That
Yeah.
one, like, that turns out we fucked up on that. I'll take ownership of that because I was the final guy to sign off and I didn't notice the measurement. There was some metric versus imperial confusion, and they sent an axle that was way too short to fit onto like a 1-ton truck. And it shows up and we get all excited. We've been waiting for months for these things to arrive, like 3-4 months for the design and specs we gave. And then we get it and you're like, that's too short.
Oh
What the
no.
fuck are we gonna do with an axle that's this short? Like, that's not gonna fit into a pickup truck. And Rich has got to be like, I've got a whole design. It's fine. I'll redesign a center axle thing, and we'll just take the axle tubes on a pickup, and we can redesign it. We'll just take the electric motors and design our own axle. And like, well, what do we do with the other ones here? Like, we still got a couple. And I posted a video on TikTok, and this is why I say you just need to be honest. And I'm like, man, these axles are too small. Like, I don't know what we're gonna do with a 5-ton rated axle size for like a Ford Ranger or a Land Cruiser. Like, who wants something that's rated to that capacity for something in a Ford Ranger? Like, it's too small.
A lot
And
of
then a mining company's like, us, we use those all the time underground, and like hybrid makes the most sense. They're like, can we hire you to build that for us for a mining vehicle? And we're like, yeah, we can. They're like, we'll pay you to build the first one. Like, how much do you want? I love the idea of having a hybrid truck. Because like, we need to cruise around the mine site, but we also have to go underground, run a tool underground, come back out, and then we got to run around. And like, I just want to be able to shut that motor off. So they sent us a motor that was spec'd for their specifications, that met their qualifications. So they sent us the motor to use. We attached a generator, and it was just a matter of being like, man, I screwed up, and I felt really bad because I just wasted like $50,000 in the company's money by signing off on that and not double checking that measurement. So I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry, and I'm apologizing in this TikTok. This company's like, we want those. We'll hire you. We'll pay for those. And like, so we had this entire new product line to a customer that we didn't know existed.
That's awesome.
I was gonna say, it's funny that you said that. Like, who would want like a 5-ton rated axle for something like a Ford Ranger? I think any Ford Ranger owner would be about that.
Yeah, yeah. Any off-road guy?
Yeah, it turns out there was a lot. I just did not realize how big the market of it. Like, I will overload the shit out of a Land Cruiser or a Ford Ranger if I can.
Yeah. Or like start selling them to Unimog guys. Or what are those?
Sherps.
Sherps, yeah. Get in
Oh
touch
yeah,
with the
that
Sherp
probably
guy.
would be good.
Hey,
Yeah, that would work for
you
that.
can use that. You can use that. But like, cause all those off-road guys, they're always busting stuff, and like, oh man, what a happy accident that was. Hey.
Yeah, no, and the whole company has just kind of been. It's why I tell everyone, like, we've had those investors Like they said, don't show anything wrong. Like, just hide all that. That's going to deter other investors in the future. Like, we don't want to invest in a company that's showing where it's failing. That's going to scare people away. But we didn't. We showed something that was wrong, and somebody came up with a solution, and we gained another customer for it.
Yeah.
Like, you
A
should be
whole
open, more
segment of
open
the
and
market.
transparent.
A whole segment of the market you got.
Yeah.
Or like a whole new market. That's wild.
Because I think, like in Canada alone, between the western provinces, there's like mining everywhere.
Yeah.
So that could be huge.
Yeah, and like they partnered up for a couple $100,000 to fund the development of it.
That's so cool.
Like, just absolutely a huge win. Something that I felt bad about for blowing $40,000 for not double checking something.
Yeah.
Like,
Meant to be.
giving my final sign off on that without being like, ended up receiving a few $100,000. Like, it's just, you got to be honest when you're in business, and you got to show things when things are going right and when things are going wrong. It pays in the end. It's a perfect example. Being honest and having integrity pays in the end.
Every time. That's what we tell our students too. Just be honest. Even my kids, my 9-year-old son, always be honest. Even if it's uncomfortable, you never know what's going to happen. And there you go. Well,
yeah, exactly. Like, be honest in your screw ups. When there's a screw up, admit it, because you don't know when that screw up is going to turn into something great. I'm a big fan of that. You heard of that Chinese proverb of "we'll see" about the farmer?
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That's exactly it. It is like, oh, you ordered the wrong axles. That's bad. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I love that. That's what's cool. Yeah, I need to think about that one more. That's such a cool. Yeah, it's too bad your son went to war. Yeah, we'll see.
I guess we should probably tell the listeners here that are listening into the podcast. You're probably like, oh yeah, we all know that and didn't tell anybody.
Ah, yes, the well-known Chinese proverb.
Yes, yeah.
For those of, obviously, everyone that's listening to this podcast is interested in Chinese philosophy, right? That's why you turn into the builder sessions to like study your Chinese philosophy.
Yeah, like come on. How is that not obvious? Okay, so do you want me to you want me to read it?
Yeah, read it off for us.
Okay. The maybe or we'll see story. Okay.
Impressive, because I didn't know he could read, so.
Yeah, well, jury's still out. So, once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. That evening, all of his neighbors came around to commiserate. They said, "We're so sorry to hear your horse has run away. This is most unfortunate." The farmer said, "We'll see." The next day, the horse came back, bringing 7 wild horses with it. And in the evening, everybody came back and said, "Oh, isn't that lucky? What a great turn of events. Now you have 8 horses." The farmer said again, "We'll see." The following day, his son tried to break one of the horses, and while riding it, he was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbors said, "Oh dear, that's too bad," and the farmer responded, "We'll see." The next day, the conscription officers came around to conscript people into the army, and they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. Again, all the neighbors came around and said, "Isn't that great?" Again, he said, "We'll see." The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it's really impossible to tell whether anything that happens in it is good or bad, because you never know what will be the consequence of the misfortune, or you never know what will be the consequence of the good fortune. So that's what we were talking about. So that $50,000 sign off that cost you some money in your mind and caused you some stress turned into something awesome. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's just why I say, like, this entire business has been based on, we'll just be open and we'll see. Okay, an investor doesn't want to invest in us because they don't like what we're doing. Well, that sucks. We don't have the money, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
That's like that let them theory too. Oh, they don't want to? Let them. Cool.
Yeah.
Moving on. So what do you I've been following you and I see you got a new property. Want to talk about that?
Yeah, this is another we'll see situation. So we were going to move up to Terrace, BC, and we were going to buy the old Hayes truck manufacturing facility up there where they're making the HDXs. And like, wow, we had an investor lined up that was willing to invest and buy the property for exchange of investment. And so we had all the financing, the investment, the shop ready to go. We met with a lot of the local businesses. That economic development officer from the city really sold us on Terrace. And the city of Terrace would not approve our zoning permit to be able to move there. Like, we could not get a business and a permit to be able to operate in the city. They would only give us a 3-year temporary permit. I'm like, well, we're not investing $2 million into a place that we're only going to be able to be in for 3 years. Like, I got to invest $2 million, relocate all the staff, bring everyone in there, and then find a new home a few years later. Like, you got to make it permanent. And they're like, oh, to do that would, like, maybe we could do it, but that might be like 6 years to get that done. Like, what? Like, oh man, so like we can't do it. And like, yeah, there's no investor and there's nothing that makes sense to put that kind of money out. So we were disappointed. We're like, fuck, are we gonna have to go down to the States? Like, the States are giving us sweetheart offers. Do we go to Alberta? Like, what do we do? And then I kind of said these issues that I was having, did a video on it, and we're like, we didn't get it. And someone reached out and they're like, hey, what about this land in Golden? And so for almost the same price that we were going to spend in Terrace for like the 5-10 acre lot, we got for this almost the same price 300 acres. And instead of dealing with city and zoning and issues, the land we got has no zoning on it and does not require any building permits to build anything. So we don't need municipal permits.
Wow.
And we have no zoning. And for pretty well the same deal, we got 300 acres. We're right off the Trans-Canada. We're on a main trucking route. And we have the CP Kansas City main line directly onto the property, or next to the property, with spur lines onto our property. It's got 4 spur lines that come onto our property for shipping things in and out. Like, so we went from being like, oh man, we're totally disappointed we didn't get this shop, to 6 months later, we have a way better shop now.
We'll see. Yeah,
And
yeah.
a golden opportunity.
There it is. Wait, I was wondering how long it would take you to do that.
Oh, I
We made so many golden puns.
Yeah,
had that one in the chamber 2 seconds in.
yeah, ready to roll.
I like it.
So when do you move there, or have you moved?
Well, we're still doing our investment raise right now.
Right.
It's definitely slowed down. It's still doing actually pretty good. I should say it slows down too much, but we're still doing like $400,000 a week that we're able to raise. $400,000 a week, so it's pretty decent.
Yeah, that's pretty good, I'd say.
It is, considering that we're just taking from the average person that makes over $200,000 a year that aren't big corporate investors or financial institutes.
Yeah.
Like, that's a limited people. But what we're going to do is we're going to leave that open for another month. We're going to see what we raise. So we raised enough to purchase the property. We raised enough to fund our operations for the next 2 years to make sure everyone's salary is paid. We made enough to purchase the parts for the next trucks that are going to be our next prototype trucks that we're keeping in for our own use. And now the money that we're raising right now is going to go towards the shop. So we're just going to put it in the hands of the universe again, and whatever we can raise, that's how big of a shop we're going to be able to build. And then after that, the reason why we chose basically towards the end of March is that's when the snow leaves the property. So once the snow starts leaving, then you got a few weeks for that ground to thaw up. So once the snow leaves, once the ground thaws up, we've got a local builder in Golden that does those prefab steel buildings. They're going to look at our budget and figure out what they can build for that budget. And then the ground's thawed. We'll start pouring the concrete. They need about 4 weeks to order all the parts for the prefab and get them. And we'll just build the building.
That's awesome. Is there not residential, not zoning, but is there like a house on the property and that type of stuff too?
There's like a little tiny mechanic shop that we can use while we're starting out. There's not really any houses or anything, so we're probably going to bring in some like prefabbed houses and prefabbed like cabins and some Ritchie Brothers specials.
Are all your employees going to live there?
Oh yeah. Everyone's just stoked. Everyone's like, we were doing like a land stake, and like everyone's like, I'm going to put my house here. I'm going to put my kid. Yeah. Like, people bring in their fifth wheels, their campers, like, Sweet. And they're all just kind of picking spots that they want to put them in. And we'll probably have a realization moment where we're like, hey man, we got to run power and septic through all of these, so maybe we should pick somewhere where there's like, maybe you should put your house near where there's a well.
Yeah, start a commune,
right? Like, oh man, like people's like a lot of guys' girlfriends are thinking about moving, and they're like, I want to get some chickens, we'll put some chickens on the property, and I can get a cow or two, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense, I want fresh eggs. Oh man, if we did like we went together like as employees and got like a couple of cows, and we could have like 5, 10 cows and just butcher one a year and make sure everyone's freezer stays stuffed full of meat. A couple chickens for fresh eggs, and we're like, oh shit, we started a commune.
Yeah, yeah,
You've started a Hutterite colony just
yeah,
without the Hutterite part.
yeah, yeah.
That's honestly, that's kind of what we're doing. But you look at those Hutterites; they
Oh,
got
they do it
some
well.
wicked nice iron. It goes back to what you say: a bunch of people living together, working together, and investing all their time and effort into a common goal. And look at what them Hutterites achieve.
Well, like a lot of my customer base in the past few jobs has been Hutterites, and that's where the money is.
There is something about that kind of lifestyle of like, hey, instead of being super individualistic, why don't the Edison employees just pitch together to buy a few cows? Pitch together to buy a few chickens.
Well, that goes along with your whole philosophy you've been talking about this whole time, right? Everyone working together for the good of everyone else, as far as your business sense, and this what we were talking about, China, those types of things. It's just the fact that you are employing those, the fact that you're practicing that in your everyday life, as far as your collaborative spirit, all the way down to like how you're gonna live, says a lot about you. So I just wanted to commend you for that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's pretty awesome. It's like since we did this, kind of the employees that also work here, everyone that's joined the team kind of shares those same values. So it makes sense that those people also want cows and chickens, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's a honestly, it's a pretty awesome spot to work. And I'm not just saying that as like, no, it's just like we've created a great corporate culture here at our company. No, we actually have a pretty great culture.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So Chase, where what is the end goal you'd want for Edison and other ventures that you might have going on?
Well,
What do you hope to develop from it?
I want to basically, you guys know, like Western Star was in Kelowna. My goal is Western Star used to make great Canadian trucks. Pacific, Hayes, Canadian Kenworth, all based here in BC, all made fantastic trucks for Western Canada, and they became Canadian truck producers. I want to get to the point where I'm like what Western Star was, what Kenworth used to be. I want to be a great Canadian automotive manufacturer that builds a product for the Canadian market without planned obsolescence, that works with right to repair, and I want to go back to that great tradition we had. That's the goal. I just want to get back to where Western Star was.
Yeah, I
Like
love that. That's cool. So what's the most? We're just gonna wrap up. We have a couple questions kind of to wrap up here, but what's one of the most valuable lessons you've learned in this journey?
Honestly, like you say, we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
was that tough to? Was that tough? Because I don't know. I just think it must be tough to when when you have a business and you're trying to make money and you put food on your table. And I don't know if you have like a family or kids or
No,
anything, but that type
no.
of stuff too. But was that hard to just adopt and accept that we'll see, or were you just kind of like, yeah, whatever, screw it?
I've always been kind of laissez-faire
That's cool.
when it comes to that. The hardest thing that's like actually been hard for me to adopt has been trusting in other people to do it. Like a lot of this company has been in like relinquishing that control and that design and letting somebody who really knows what they're doing do the thing they're doing. It's like, yeah, we listen, we do the thing, but then you hit a certain point, like starting out the company was great. I could listen to their advice and then I would implement their advice and I would physically do the thing and I would torque every bolt and tighten every bolt on the truck and pull all the wrenches. Now I'm so busy organizing things in the company that I can't be in the shop physically pulling the wrenches. Now I got to trust that the guy in the shop is going to pull the right wrenches. I got to trust that the engineer who's making that part knows what he's doing, makes a good part, gets it off to a supplier, gets the supplier to make the part, and gets that part delivered to the shop in time to install in the production line. Like, it's just a different level of like, oh, hey, he knows what he's doing, and it's worked great. Turns out if you just let people that know what they're doing do the thing they're doing, you don't need to micromanage or could look after them. You can just kind of check in and let them do what they do best. But it's a weird level of trust to relinquish.
Yeah, I could see that. especially since it's your baby, right? Like you got your heart and soul into this thing.
Yeah, and you just got to come to the point of like, they're going to make mistakes. Mistakes happen. No, I've made mistakes. They're going to make mistakes. And you just got to accept that, like, look, they're not going to be perfect. I shouldn't be worried that they're never going to make a mistake. I should just trust them to do it. And if they do, figure out how we change it and move on. But it takes a while to get used to that.
Absolutely. Closing up, I think we got one more here. Actually, two more questions for you.
What I mean, EVs are a pretty specialized market still, I would say. What is the most like unique to your industry tool that you have in your current shop?
We got that crane excavator. I don't know anyone else with a little excavator mounted crane. That thing is wicked.
That's so cool.
Like as far as the other tools go, like there's not really any special tools.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wires with some lugs. Like let's be honest, we built these trucks on a dirt floor in a tent. Like we have no special tools. We're just like got the Milwaukee, just a basic Milwaukee package of tools, some wrenches, and that's what built these trucks.
Special tools that can do.
I guess the high voltage gloves. So
yeah, high voltage gloves. Yeah, right. You're right.
Yeah, that's the biggest. Like some of the safety equipment, I guess, is like, hey, there are lockout tagouts. You're working with live batteries, and what you do is you disconnect the power from the batteries, then you put on these high voltage gloves, and then you put your voltmeter. You lock out the batteries like you would in a sawmill. So you disconnect it, you put a lock on so no one can re-energize when you're working on it. Then you put on high voltage gloves, grab a test meter, like a little voltmeter, and you put it on the terminals, and you verify that there's zero power in that system, and then you can take the gloves off and work. But that's the only real specialized tool we have is like these special high voltage gloves you use when you initially open things.
See, I thought there's gonna be some like crazy oscilloscope, like something or other. I don't know.
Your engineers might be using an oscilloscope, but maybe not.
They probably do. Maybe that's that weird box thing that they use.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guarantee you that's what it is.
It's a weird box.
It's got like a little lines and it's got a bunch of dials and that's a okay. So there's some thing that I don't know what it is that they use. You don't
need to know that.
I don't need to know that. That's on
nerd stuff.
Yeah, Nerd City. Do you have anything exciting coming up other than the stuff that we talked about?
Exciting coming up that like hasn't really been talked about, I guess. Yeah, we got a couple things.
Yeah,
sure. Why not? We're building some mechanical trucks now.
Sweet.
Yeah, no, with just a bunch of 18 speeds, because like the whole thing is like I haven't talked about it, and we're just developing that in total secret, and I'm not gonna make any videos about it until we're just finish the truck and we roll it out.
Exclusive. We got an exclusive.
Yeah, I might as well give you guys an exclusive. This has been great. So one of the problems of like getting to production is like I'm not going to production until I can reliably build a hybrid truck that gets 1,000,000 kilometers without any issues. The problem with getting 1,000,000 kilometers on a truck is that it takes a few years to get a few million kilometers on a truck. Yeah. It just takes time. You've got to run it. You've got to drive it. Because, like, I can't sell a truck in production if all of a sudden year 3 and year 4, the truck starts falling apart, components start breaking, they don't have the longevity, and we need to source new components. Like, I can't go to production with that. But I also can't just go 3-4 years with very little revenue, only building 10 trucks a year, 20 trucks a year maximum.
Got to keep the lights on, right?
You got to keep the lights on. And then we've been telling enough people no that they don't like we're sold out. We're not doing any more hybrids. Like we're at the maximum amount that we want to do. They've been saying like, well, just build them a normal truck. Like I like everything you're doing. I like the right to repair. I like the non-planned obsolescence. I love the off-the-shelf parts that I can get at CBS. Can you just build me a normal truck then? And we said, yeah, I can. And then we looked into it. I put all the parts together and we put everything into a 3D model and we put the supply agreements together. And like now the manual transmission, I think, is showing up tomorrow morning.
No way.
So he's going to come drop it off tomorrow morning and we already paid for the motor. And so I can roll those off. There's nothing that needs to be proven. Putting an 18 speed behind a diesel motor with a set of Meritor rear ends has been proven. It works. There's nothing that needs to be designed other than like and the parts are the same. So it's going to use the same the same radiator, the same cab, the same hood, the same fenders, the same frame rails, the same air brake system, the same controls, the same wiring harnesses, minus the high voltage part. So I can just build those and instead of putting on an alternator, I put on a motor. So that's kind of the newest thing is like, well, that's going to be able to allow us to get to production quicker. It's going to allow us to sell a truck for a profit, bring that revenue in there, and then that revenue can fund the development of the hybrid systems while making sure we stay as a profitable company and not like all these other EV companies. Because fundamentally, we're not an electric truck company. We're a truck company. Like, we're not EV and tech. We're truck manufacturers. I want to build trucks. I don't care if it's got an 18 speed or if it's hybrid. I think hybrid's better. I think it has way more benefits. But I also like my 18 speeds.
Yeah.
Jamming gears is fun. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been a truck driver for so long, right? Like,
yeah.
Exactly. And like,
That's so cool.
we're not mated to the idea of hybrid. I like the hybrid. I think the technology is awesome. But I love trucks. And I just want to build trucks. I'll build the best truck I possibly can. And if the hybrid right now isn't the most reliable or hasn't been proven, well, I'll build the thing that is proven. And
Yeah.
I'll still keep building trucks.
Yeah, exactly. And fund your habit.
That's right.
if the hydrogen engine ever gains any popularity, would Edison have any interest in trying to make like a hydrogen-powered semi?
Oh yeah, I know for sure. We had a customer that asked that, and we looked into it, and the price we got for the motor was like almost $1 million for just like the hydrogen fuel cells. Like, it was wildly expensive. And then they looked at the price of the fuel, and that was too expensive. But like, with the hybrid, it doesn't care where, like, the inverters don't care where they get their electrons from. So if the electrons come from a hydrogen fuel cell, if that technology becomes mainstream, I'll just buy fuel cells and I'll put those in. If you want to put a propane generator in, natural gas generator, anything that can produce electrons that those inverters want to turn into usable power, I'll put that in there. I don't care if a customer wants to order it and they want 400 hamsters on treadmills with little alternators attached, I'll put 400 hamsters on a treadmill. I'll deal with the PETA letters, but like, it's a totally agnostic system. It doesn't care where the power comes from.
Just as long as there's power.
Just as long as there's power. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, Chace, this has been an awesome conversation. It's already been, an hour and 15 minutes about. We really appreciate your time. I've learned a ton. I was careful because when I knew you were coming on, I like to do research, but I also like to talk to the guests and, have them explain it to me like I'm 5 almost, but like with fresh ears, right? Because I don't want to come in with any bias or any sort of whatever, but I've learned a ton about your company. I've learned a ton about your past and what you got going on. Like, that's amazing. I just want to say, like, what you're doing is incredible. Can people still, are you still crowdfunding for the little truck stuff? Little truck.
Yeah.
Stuff?
We still have that reservation and support for that $250 Canadian to try and fund the pickup truck development kit.
That's cool. And then where can people find you if they want to look into it and look into this a little more? What's your social media and what website? Where can people find you?
YouTube is honestly the best one. YouTube, we're on TikTok. I don't use Facebook. If you see a Facebook account, it's a fake hacking account trying to scam people for Bitcoin. Believe it or not, I'm pretty busy with Edison Motors. I'm not running a Bitcoin operation.
What do you mean?
Like, man, I got so tired of Facebook that I just don't even use it anymore. Yeah. But yeah, we're on YouTube and TikTok.
That's awesome. And I will link. Are you on Instagram too?
Yeah, we're on Instagram.
Who's not on Instagram, I guess. But we'll put all those links in the show notes of this episode as well. And
we're on X, but I just use that to kind of troll Tesla a bit.
Fair enough.
As one does.
As you should. I mean, that's what's normal, But yeah, Chace, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time. And I'm just going to pause for a second. When we wrap up, we'll say goodbye and everything. And then if you wouldn't mind just staying on the call, that'd be cool. All right. So Chace, thanks once again for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for listening. Please go and check out Edison Motors and everything they have going on. There's a couple other things we didn't get into, but they do like a school EV build challenge, a bunch of cool stuff for the community too. We didn't have time to get into all that today.
They also have merch.
And merch.
Got some merch.
We'll have to just. I just googled Alberta Lethbridge to Merritt. It's 10 hours. It's not bad.
I've done a longer drive than that in a day.
That's a day trip for sure.
Maybe we should come out there and say hi, film some stuff. That'd be kind of cool.
You bet. I come out to Golden.
Oh yeah, come out to Golden. It's probably even closer. Yeah, it's way
I'm
closer.
all over that.
Yeah, we'd be all over that. Well, we'll chat. We'll
You
chat.
bet,
We'll
you
stay in
bet.
touch. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Check out in the show notes of this episode, all the links to what they have going on. Thanks again, Chace. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Rosie.
Thanks for having me on. This has been awesome, guys. A lot of fun.
We'll catch you everyone in the next one.
Take care.